Hello everybody! I haven't made a video in a long time, so I guess here's one to compensate for that. And today I'd like to once again make a tune together with you and go through a little bit of a tips that I've made for myself while making music and that helped me make better tunes, I guess. So let's quickly go into the track settings, set ourselves some sort of tempo, maybe, I don't know, 140 would be good. And we go with a major today. Doesn't matter the letter before that. Okay, let's start with amp pads. One really good thing when making a drum beat is to make yourself some sort of anchor. By anchor I mean either a snare or a bass drum with some sort of easy to grasp for the average listener or for yourself. You don't need to work for the average listener, actually. Yeah, so you need some sort of a rhythm that will be easy to latch onto and make other things around. For example, it could be just a plain old doom 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 doom, maybe. And then you can build upon that. I highly recommend you to keep empty space between your beats when making a drum loop, because as you might find, when you are constantly with every drum, it becomes quite messy quite fast. Let's try to make a anchor for ourselves, but before we do that, there's another tip that I would like to add. Grab yourself more than one drum of each kind. You can go with 5 of them, and we can like go with the same rhythm that I've showed you before, but we can iterate between each drum to create variety. Basically they perform the same role, each one of them, but different sounds provide more interest for the listener. So let's go with something less crowded. Yeah, I need to stop moving each bass drum all the time. Sorry people, I'm doing it unconsciously. So let's go with something easier. The third tip before we actually record. We cannot start recording, damn. So the third tip is to sing for yourself, or in our case, since it's a drum loop, we can beatbox. I've been giving this tip before and I will give it once again. Sing even though you might not be finding yourself to be a good singer. Doesn't matter. Only you will be able to hear it, and it will help you make better connection with your music and better understand it. Oh no. And same, we can go with many snares. Another tip, when making a drum loop, maybe a good idea would be to not play over the drums you already have, but play in the free spaces between each hit. So let's try to do that, I guess. I'll actually add 4 of those just to keep it more symmetrical, and then we can add into some other free spaces. You can use 16th notes to vary it a little bit. And then another tip, we can create some polyrhythms by by changing the length of our drum loop. We can add a little bit. I like this one. It will keep our drum loop fresh to the ear, even though it's kinda small and boring. So, hi-hats. Hi-hats are a good instrument to change the intensity of your drum loop. So, for example, right now, it's kind of chill, but we can grab the hi-hat and start fastly drumming on the 16th notes, or we can use only 4th ones. And notice how the intensity changes as the tempo of the hi-hat changes. Hey, I like that. We can go with the 8 notes at the start and then just add some more 16th ones at the end of the loop. So let's try that. And we just lower the sound a little bit because it's quite high in the spectrum of sound. It's called hi-hat after all, and the high notes are piercing through our ear a little bit easier than the low ones. So therefore, if they're the same volume, they will be more noticeable than the low ones, and we want our drum loop to be somewhat smooth. So let's work on that a little bit. After all, the hi-hats are not the central point of the drum loop. The central point should be the bass drum and the snare. So let's go into the melodic section and think a little bit of what we want to do with the board this time. Another tip that I wrote for myself is that I should think of music more in the chords way rather than in the just singular notes. And like the chords are conveying the emotion the most. And I don't know, try to play with chords more, people. Okay, well, let's say we want to use this chord, and the good way to fit it in the chord progression would be to take 2 notes out of this chord, for example those 2, and keep them in place and change the other one. So let's say, I mean, I've left those 2, but I meant to. Keep at least one of your notes from the previous chord, and that will give you the smooth chord progression. That doesn't have to be the rule. You can still jump if you want in the chord progressions, like so. Another good thing to use when making chord progressions is to spread your chord across multiple octaves, and you do that by basically the lowest note of your chord you can play on the first row of the instrument. Then the second note, it would be like this one. We can just move our hand into the instrument. Let's compare the chords if I would play on the one row. Notice how the second one feels more grand, it feels bigger, just because we used multiple octaves. And we can add more notes to it and make it even bigger. Like so. And there we have some pretty cool chord progressions, and we also can use the other axis to play chords. In case you want to play chords that are not like played with notes one after the other, like I did. If you want to play chords that are, you can actually record them into separate parts, and that is what I want to do right now. Let's start with the first and the fifth note of our chords. Let's say it's gonna be oh yeah, I kind of like it. Let's roll with that. Yeah. Let's add the drums back, because that gives us some anchors. Let's add the third note. You gotta keep in mind what you played. The last notes, but we can fix that. We failed with the setting the correct length to this one, but easy fix. We just drag it around and then reposition it to play the correct place. Yeah. Okay, I'm running low on battery, so let's move on to the melody. And for melody, I have just one tip. Usually, people like to play melody on the same instrument. They pick one and they keep jamming and keep jamming and keep jamming. And my tip is to switch the instruments throughout your jam. And then we pause. Then we pick another one. like this. Yeah, I like the result, and we can just go and save it. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you learned something new, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.